Yeah, we wanted to take a few minutes since the three of us had gotten together as Antioch students, and that's how we all met. We recently found out this week that one of our very beloved professors, Dr. Ernie Zulo, passed away from a medical emergency. I guess it happened last week. And then they just told us about it this week, or they just released information this week. And so we definitely wanted to take some time since all three of us were getting together, and all three of us had him for our internship class and other classes at Antioch University, and wanted to take a few minutes to honor him and a little memorial for him that would live on electronically. So, Julie, do you want to start? Because I know that you are the closest to Dr. Z as far as like in time frame and your experience of him. You just had class with him. Does that feel okay?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I had my last class that ended at the end of August, and he was my last professor. It's kind of funny. He was the one that when you first go to apply to the program, you have to have an interview, and he was the very first
Wow.
face of Antioch. And then he was my very last class. I didn't have him at all in between. I just saw him at the residencies and he'd pop up here and there for things, but and I just had such a good experience in this last class. It just left me with such a warm, fuzzy feeling. He had such an amazing sense of humor, and he was so knowledgeable and so approachable. Um, I was just shocked when I hear it's it's affected me more than I would have thought. And he was also my age. He was my fellow Gen Xer in class. So we had a nice little laugh over that. But so that's also a weird aspect of it too, is it's not some 85-year-old professor who passed, it's somebody who's in their 50s. It's just weird. Yeah. So, but shout out to Dr. Z. Yeah.
He always wanted us to call him Ernie. So I don't know if he did that
Yes.
in y'all's class, but he was like, "Oh, just call me Ernie." I was like, "I just cannot call a professor Ernie. I'm sorry." So I could call him Dr. Z, but I just could not call him Ernie. But he was just like that. Like he just wanted to build those like close relationships with all the students. So yeah, I first encountered Dr. Z in my first residency at Antioch. It was a skills residency, and he was just so incredibly patient with the classmates in there that were struggling, and just he was just had so much grace and so much patience, and he was also really good at highlighting your strengths, of things that I, like, didn't even know I was good at that he would point out. Those are the things that I still carry with me today, like, when I'm stuck in sessions or, like, I'm like, "Ooh, do that thing that Dr. Z said that you're good at," and it works. And then when I had him for internship class, just for people who are will listen to this and may not know what that means, is when you're going to school for mental health counseling, you have to do 2 internships to graduate from clinical mental health counseling program to get your master's. And so you meet weekly with a group of classmates, and then you have a professor that's leading that class, and so you're talking about not only your cases that your clients that you have, but a lot of comes it's hard. Like, school is fucking hard, dude, because you're working. A lot of us are still working. We're still learning ourselves. It is a very difficult time for students. And then so having someone like Dr. Z to show up, to be able to show up with his knowledge to help case conceptualize, help us help our clients, but also hold space for like the struggles that we're having as students. He was just very, very, very especially good at that, and touched a lot of lives. He had a book club. I remember I read the book that still really stuck with me, What My Bones Knew by Stephanie Wu. And so that was awesome to get to participate that with him. He and I bonded, over doing crisis work, because he was one of his specialties was crisis counseling, um, and he definitely showed up to support me during some times whenever I was struggling, volunteer work with the Trevor Project, which is an organization that he also deeply cared about. There was nobody like Dr. Z, that's for sure.
Yeah, it's definitely like a really shocking and does not feel real, that like he could just not be here anymore as like we all kind of had him recently. I had him for my internship class with along with Jamie. So we both like experienced that, side by side, ending our program with him. And I know like you two in particular have a lot of experience with grief, and I don't. So it's something that is still is like very weird for me to comprehend. I mean, I don't know um if you guys like think it's ever something you could get used to comprehending, but yeah, it's just like always a weird feeling or like thought for me. So it is definitely like just really strange, and I immediately, felt like I had those thoughts immediately about like what you mentioned, Jamie, of like how he was just so good at believing in us and highlighting our strengths. And I'm a pretty insecure person. And as we go into, talking about our high school selves and, page of cups and stuff, I was definitely an insecure, emotional teen, and I'm still can be. He also really helped me out in particular with a really hard time for me because I loved my experience with Antioch, but we had to set up our own internships and, based on like where we're at locally. And I had a pretty hard you to know this. I had a really borderline traumatic experience with my internship site and supervisor. And he just having him like at the end there with me was really comforting. Because um, I'm already an insecure person, and then during this time too, I was just not in a good headspace at all. And just hearing what he saw in me, even when I just did not recognize it within me, was just life giving. Like you said, Jamie, I will like always remember, wow, like how he made me feel and some of his words. Another thing too is I'm a pretty small person. I mean, you two know this, but I'm a physically really small person. I'm only 5 foot, but he just made me feel like so big, like energetically, and that's like Which is really funny because hard.
he is funny because he was huge. He was
He
so
and
tall.
yes, yeah, yeah, yeah. So he made me feel that way and not feel like belittled like I usually do. So yeah, that was just like the best gift like, he could ever like give us is to make us feel like, as we're new at this and counseling, just that like we got this and to just like really recognize us and to see us. So and um he was part of the queer community too, so, made me feel seen in that way too, because as I am also part of the queer community as well. So we also lost a member of the community. So we just, yeah, there's so many losses along when he passed. So yeah,
Yeah, and I know that, Dr. Z loved the Trevor Project, which supports queer
yeah.
youth, and he wanted people to donate to the Trevor Project and support the Trevor Project in his memory. So if you're listening to this, oh, it's Giving Tuesday coming up, so maybe I'll have this out by Giving Tuesday. So, yeah, please consider the Trevor Project as your source for Giving Tuesday in memory of a professor that really touched a lot of lives by Dr. Z touching his students' lives. We're able to go out and hopefully make a difference in other people's lives and have that trickle out effect. I just want to say one more thing about you specific, Shaylee, because I will never forget this moment, like you were just saying, Shaylee, where you felt like you're in church. I remember this moment during class, specifically with you, Shaylee, where yeah, and Dr. Z, the way he could channel his like his bigness, but he could just see right into
He's
you.
real
And I don't know if
intuitive too,
yeah. He had this
you
moment,
know?
Shaylee, with you, and he was like, Shaylee, he was like, you have this depth of this well of infinite. I don't know. I can't remember exactly what his words, but I feel like he just like looked into you and he was like, I see your power. And I was like, whoa. It was like, I don't know. Something happened.
I know something did happen, like, when he when he said that, and I know I couldn't.
believe it either. But yeah, and thank you because you were there to witness me too. So thank you.
Yeah, I just remember that moment. I was like, "Yeah, he's right." Like, because I feel like I see that because I know you, and that's not fair. But like for him to just be like, "What? I see this power in you, Shaylee." I was like, "Yeah, she's a fucking witch, bro," you know. But for him to like see it, you know, like this that intuition, he just went straight there. I was like, "Wow, he's so good." It just blew my mind, and so I still think about that moment with you, and it was really marvelous to witness.
Thank you.
So this one's for Dr. Z. This one's for Dr. Z
To see.
in our classmate.